Yes, it's Guy Pancho with a weekly Paleo report for August 13th of 2025. And it's a little bit of a reprieve this week. There are not many major planetary aspects happening. By next Tuesday, it's kind of building up all week, but the sun will be exactly trine Chiron next Tuesday. So there will be some healing going on. What I want to talk to you about today is those two kites that I talked about last week. Okay, they're still somewhat in effect, especially the Mars opposite Saturn. That is, really still active. Trining Pluto and trining Uranus. But the big thing is the opposition. I mean, it's an intense time, as you can tell, with this week's mantra, and that intensity is still kind of, in some ways, it's tapering off. But the other aspect of that is from, really today through Saturday, we have Black Moon Lilith having just gone into Scorpio, and she is creating then a T-square with Mercury stationing opposite Pluto. Yeah. That opposition, that part of the kite is still active because Mercury is just kind of, going very, very slowly, not really out of his shadow until really Sunday, the 17th. He will begin to make some new progress over some new territories, but until then, we've just, we're still doing a little bit of shadow work here. The moon is, in Aries right now, a little fiery and a little dynamic, squaring that Venus-Jupiter over there in Cancer, and she comes around, and by tomorrow she goes into Taurus, and I'm going to read you the Sabian symbol for the third quarter square moon. Oh, look at that monarch butterfly. You see him up there? Yeah. Love those. Anyway. Yeah. 23 degrees, 36 minutes of Taurus is our third quarter square moon. And then she moves on. The nice thing on Friday, Venus comes into trine the north node of the moon. I'm going to mention that a little bit. And by Sunday, Mercury does come into a sextile with Mars. So by the weekend, we're going to emerge renewed from the underworld experience. And let me look at the camera and talk about it. I'm going to sit on that rock right there. All right, everybody. Well, today I want to talk to you about pressure. Pressure. Theme song for the week, Under Pressure, by David Bowie and Queen. Under pressure. Under pressure. You may be feeling under pressure. President Trump and his tariffs are putting a number of people under pressure. Right? Throughout the world is under pressure, economic pressure. But before I get so into pressure, we want to look at astrology also as a clock, a great timer of events, and when is this pressure going to let up? Well, this pressure, which is associated, I'm going to associate pressure with Pluto, Saturn, and Mars. And Saturn coming around to Neptune, right? It's like Neptune is a butterfly and Saturn is the net, catching the butterfly, trapping the butterfly, holding the butterfly down, imprisoning the butterfly. Boom. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling it? Yeah. It's been going on since March, April. And it's going to go on until next late February. And then it's going to move on. And Saturn will let go and let that butterfly Neptune go free and head off on his own. after he's learned something from the butterfly, right? Times Saturn, Saturn will move on. And then what? Then you come to the Dominican Republic for a fabulous time of birthing a new paradigm, birthing a new identity with dance. We're going to learn the bachata. We're going to be on the beach. We're going to be tubing. We're going to be looking at your chart, everybody's chart. It's going to be amazing. Click on the link below and you can sign up for that puppy. Yeah, of course there's limited space, but yeah, check it out. It's going to be really beautiful, and I think we're all going to be ready for a break. I am ready for a break right now. I have a little throat lozenge, because this Mercury opposite Pluto has just kind of gotten to my throat. So I'll last as long as I can. I hope I don't get laryngitis. But let's also just consider what is going on here in with pressure. And there are so many different kinds of pressure. Number one, the pressure is Pluto. Pluto is the force of evolution. Unconscious soul force, life force to evolve. Not just as human beings. All creatures, all animals, all life is growing and evolving and transforming and changing, right? The trees, the river, everything is like shifting and adapting and forever, evolving into more complex life forms. And so, this force is pushing, it's pushing us to, and Pluto rules volcanoes. Pluto is the god of the underworld, the richest god of all, where the gold and the diamonds and the silver. And what makes diamonds? Tremendous amounts of pressure. Yeah? So we have this real push to go deeper within. Scorpio, Pluto, and the 8th house people know what I'm talking about. The Scorpio question is why? Seeking more power. Should I jump into that already? I was going to go into the different forms of pressure. Saturn is more like the sledgehammer. Okay, Saturn is just, pound it, concentrate it, condense it, and squeeze it. It's not, it's not so much about, getting or pushing somewhere, through into something new or whatever, so much as just sit still and reflect and, go into the past, look at your karma, grow up and mature through slowing down, committing, being in integrity and responsibility. So this is just a different kind of pressure. It's also external authority. Rules Capricorn in the 10th house has to do with our reputation and what people are talking or saying about us. And there's social pressure. So if we think of all the different kinds of pressure, it gets pretty phenomenal. Mars is another kind of pressure. I just brought in Mars a little bit because, first of all, it's opposite Saturn. So when Mars is in opposition to Saturn, in that kite formation, Mars is heat and desire and direction. So Mars-Saturn is setting goals and making commitments, that are going to help you achieve those goals. And a commitment is pressure. It's a limitation of your freedom to change, adapt, move, go, whatever. When you commit to something, boom, it immediately becomes, a source of pressure. And then I also thought of Mars because I think of what? There's different kinds of pressure. One pressure is just like Saturn concentrating, right? And then there's the other type of pressure of Pluto, like erupting what wants to, come up from deep down below our unconscious into our conscious. And then there's air pressure and water pressure and blood pressure, right? So we have this, and I think of blowing up a bicycle tire. I don't know if you've ever bought a new bicycle tire. They're flat, right? And you pop it into that air pump and you start pumping some air pressure and it opens up that tire, right? And like, your blood opens up those veins and gets out to each one of your cells. There is this opening, with air pressure, water pressure. Just think of, you've got a kink in the hose. You turn up the pressure and, that kink comes out of the hose. And this is the thing that I really want to point to, particularly now with Black Moon Lilith in square with Mercury opposite Pluto. This has to do with digging down deep into our shadow. We know that Black Moon Lilith is the dark feminine. And she was not always dark. She was very light. She was the handmaiden of Inanna, the goddess of love and beauty, back in the ancient matriarchal times. She united heaven and earth, lived in the trunk of a tree in Inanna's garden, and the birds of paradise made their home in her branches, and the snakes made their nests in her roots. So she is this, powerful, powerful being, and the symbolism is this unition, like our trunk. Yes? It's very powerful. It's like, Saturn and Pluto co-rule the root chakra, right? And so we have this Scorpio Pluto, very deep, unconscious soul desire to evolve, and it is coming up in through Mars into consciousness. And then comes what? Social pressure, family pressure, okay, all different forms, financial pressure, economic pressure, religious pressure, morals and ethics, and da da da. And it's like, now this instinct, this desire, this is, I need to suppress, I need to control, I need to deny, I need to repress, I need to just because I've got to show up for my family, I've got to show up for my partner, I've got to show up for my kids, I've got to make money, I've got to show up at the job, I've got to, I've got to play the game. I mean, I got to be somebody. I've got ambitions and goals and drives and all this kind of, instinctive and animalistic, and these anger and these, whatever comes up is not always, acceptable. And so we control and we suppress our desires. This is pressure. We put pressure on ourselves to conform, to be liked, to be accepted, to be respected, to be rich, to be free. We control and discipline, and in some cases suppress and repress our true desires, our true thoughts, our true instincts. And what happens? They go down. They don't go away. They go down. And they get stinky, moldy, and smelly, and they come out crooked. They come out perverted. They come out twisted. If I can't speak it and reach for it directly, I'm going to go around. I'm going to manipulate. I'm going to coerce. I'm going to go into covert action. Yeah? Or the other aspect is I could get, demanding, right? And angry. And so this is the shadow side, particularly of Scorpio. I'm going to exploit. I'm going to manipulate. I'm going to, force my will, force my desires onto another in this relationship. So it is, it's the Dracula, okay? It's the Spider Woman. It's the, the Wolf Man, whatever. We could go on and on with very powerful sorcerers, magicians, okay, that like use voodoo or use spells, or, it's greed or it's lust or it's, that really, it's taking. And this shadow side, it exists. It even exists in today's Sabian symbol. But before I read that Sabian symbol, I just want to really look at, so Black Moon Lilith was this beautiful goddess of light and love, and the patriarch came along, and the Bible came along, and Adam came along and told her, lay beneath me. Yeah, and I'm in charge. I'm the authority, and she is like a tantrika that used to teach men about their sexuality and teach men about the masculine and how to approach and merge with the feminine. So she left. She deserted her, Adam. And Adam complained to God, and God sent angels out in the desert to get her. And then punished her for not coming back because she refused as a very strong, powerful feminine energy. And we can say that's where the story ends. She's still out there. The patriarchy is still alive and kicking. The feminine is still being, suppressed and dominated and exploited. Right down to Mother Earth. I'm not just talking about women. I'm talking about, Mother Earth and our animals and our butterflies and our birds and our fish and our oceans, and everything that is earth and water is feminine in astrology. Just kind of feel into it for a little bit. So she's pissed off. She is pissed off. She has been getting the raw end of the stick. So yeah, we're getting some pretty massive volcanoes. The Pacific Ring is lighting up on us. I mean, this is a time period of great transformation on planet Earth. And it's time for each one of us, personally, to dig into Neptune, Saturn retrograding back into Pisces, to finally finish, close, and complete an old identity, an old life, an old me, an old way of being, an old job. And like I say, it's kind of, concluded a little bit in February. If we can make it till February. If it doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger. That's a little motto for these days. But, but it is very, and this is the good part about pressure. Okay? And what the good part about Scorpio, and even the good part about Neptune and Saturn coming together. Both Saturn and Scorpio want to cut through the bullshit, cut through the illusions, cut through the delusions, cut through the stories that we tell ourselves about what happened, about what she said and what I said, and what she was feeling and what I was feeling, and da-da-da. And it's amazing how each and every one of us has our own view of what happened that night in the bedroom, okay, that vacation 5 years ago, that night out, last weekend. I mean, wow. You know, this Mercury opposite Pluto and these kites, we got calls from around the world of people whose relationships had a crisis. I mean, talk about, and because the other aspect of this is when you suppress, not only does it get distorted, but you project it. And it's in your relationships with your beloved, with your intimate relationships. The more vulnerable and open you are with another, the more they will point out your shadow, your stories, how you're lying to yourself, how you are avoiding, you know, your own personal truth, your own personal path. And the closer they are, the more they can see through. And the longer that you've been with somebody, okay, the more the more they have experienced you, okay, you know, for a longer period of time and your patterns. So this is a time of great exposure. Mercury opposite Pluto, the full moon, it's like a full Mercury. And Pluto is the underworld, and it's like Mercury is our consciousness and Pluto's unconscious. So let's make this unconscious conscious. And it can, yeah, it's a lot of, and so there is this force, this pressure, and our loved ones will put pressure on us. And, you know, sometimes we can even pay people. And, you know, our employees will put pressure on us. You know, I mean, it's like you can get pressure, you can get Pluto from all sides. And Mars in Libra wants relationship, but the Saturn opposition comes along and says, there's a cost for this. Yeah. Last but not least, what I want to bring up about this with Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio is that what is Scorpio about? It's about power. The bottom line. I want more power over my life, over my future, right? Power is, in a way, freedom. Power is control. Power is safety and security. Getting my way makes me feel safe and secure. You know? So whether it's, you know, financial, intellectual, sexual, emotional, family, social, you know, whatever, all different kinds of power, but we all seek power as part of our survival. There is power in what we know and can control. And there is powerlessness, this terrifying feeling of being out of control, being at the mercy of other people, of the banks, of the government, of the boss, of the partner, of Mother Nature. This powerlessness, Scorpio is both power and powerlessness. It's coming to terms with the reality that there are forces beyond our control that we need to learn how to live with. And we need to learn how to actually penetrate, merge, and thereby become more powerful through the relationship. So there is this desire to relate to that which has something we want, something that is more powerful than us. It's like we want to relate to that, to osmose, to absorb, to grow and to learn and to become more powerful ourselves. But that puts us in a role of submission. That puts us in a role of the student or the client or the patient. So it's like anytime we admit that somebody has something or is more powerful than us, okay, first of all, we're being very vulnerable, and secondly, we're giving our power to that other person. And so there is a dance that goes on. Very often it's not a dance, it's a battle. It is a fierce battle. Yes? Who is in charge? Who is in control? Who has more power in this relationship, in this family, in this car, in this bus, on this channel, in this school? I mean, there's all kinds of power trips. What I want to read to you is sometimes that power even turns into violence. And we are having violence all over the world right now. And this is a very violent Sabian symbol. It's the 24th degree of Taurus, and it is an Indian warrior riding fiercely. Human scalps hanging from his belt. The aggressiveness of human instincts when fighting for their earthly base of operations. In the mythology of early America, the Indian represents the savage, close to nature, and led by primordial instincts. Alas, our present century has revealed that under far less imperative circumstances, so-called civilized man is capable of far more cruel tortures and extermination. This symbol related to a fourth stage seems to imply that violence and aggressiveness are basic components of human nature at the level of the emotions and of a deep-seated identification with a particular culture which insists on regarding people of other cultures as potential enemies. What's confirmed here is the value of a group of people's differences from other groups. We are still in a period of differentiation. Taurus is only the second sign of the zodiac, right? We're only at the 54th degree of the zodiac that is 360 degrees, right? So it's still kind of the beginning, differentiating. That impulse from Aries differentiates through Taurus and Gemini. And the need for a differentiation of human behavior and collective values is still very strong. At the emotional level, man apparently still has to believe in, capital letters, violence for survival. Wow. We apparently still have to believe. This is the old paradigm that we want to leave behind us. We want to return, right, to the golden age or matriarchal times. There were far fewer wars during the matriarchal times. It is this Martian, masculine, warrior energy that brings about this violence. And where does the violence come from? Suppression. You suppress, you get irritated, frustrated until you become violent, until the pressure builds up so much you can't take it anymore, and then you become violent. Yeah? When we stop suppressing, when we admit to ourselves that we failed, that we are afraid, that we screwed up, whatever we fear the most, that we're not enough, we feel like we're not enough, we feel like we give too much. There's all these shadows. There's all this self-judgment. There's all this, these suppressed feelings that we are afraid to admit to ourselves, much less in our relationships. So this is Mercury, communication. And it's going direct through its shadow, okay, for 4 more days. And it's in a T-square with Black Moon Lilith. And she is in Scorpio now for 3 months or so. And she's going to be stirring up our primal, basic instincts for us to acknowledge them. Because we can't move on until we acknowledge, okay, the truth. Scorpio is about investigating and putting pressure until the truth is revealed. And the truth shall set us free in Sagittarius. So, this week, while there are different kinds of pressure, physical, emotional, mental, and more, they all perform a similar function of forcing me to open and go through the door. There are unconscious forces of evolution that are pushing us. And they create, these unconscious forces will bring in the right person at the right time, in the right place. Whether it's a mom or a dad or a teacher or a guru or an enemy, they will force us to look at ourselves. And when we look at ourselves and we admit and we own our truth, then we proceed, we evolve, we progress, and we go through the door. So we can sit around and bemoan the fact and be victims of or be overwhelmed by all the pressure. Or we can, in rare moments, give great thanks and be in a state of gratitude that all of creation, even a tidal wave or an earthquake or the death of someone, these that forces us, puts pressure on us, to deal with the estate of the one who passed, or the pressure of getting sick when you're committed and have a job and a duty. I just think of all these pressures. These pressures are self-created unconsciously. We are creating a reality of pressure to push us to change. Uranus and Gemini, folks. Time for big change. Yeah. Woo! Pressure, it's like unclogs the arteries, right? If you've got good blood pressure, it gets rid of the clogs. So this pressure is also flushing. It's flushing out the impurities, the bullshit, the patterns that hold us back. Boom. And that's opening up. And 2026 is going to be an opening up. Okay? And there's going to be a great move forward. into a new identity, new paradigm, new world. I see it coming, and boom. Let's get down to the truth of the matter now so that we have a firm, solid foundation to build the new paradigm on. One more time. While there are different kinds of pressure, physical, emotional, mental, and more, they all perform a similar function of forcing me to open and go through that door. Ow! May you open and go through that door. Namaste. Aloha. So much love. Ow!